Speak!
What up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of Lior's newsletter. My name is Tuma Basa. I'm the director of Black Music and Culture at YouTube, and we've assembled a great group of social pioneers to discuss a very important topic, and that topic is racial justice in the music business. We have the founders of Show Must Be Paused, Jamila and Brianna. We have Binta Brown from Black Music Action Coalition, Chuck D from Public Enemy, who is a self-described raptivist and culturalist. We have Jeff Harleston from Universal Music Group, and of course Lior, our head of music at YouTube. Moderating will be Carlita Higginson, who is our head of publishing at YouTube. But before we start, Lior has some opening remarks.
I want to welcome everyone and thank you all for your time. I truly look forward to today's discussion because we're currently facing the perpetual moment of truth. And I say perpetual because it's centuries old. And the moment of truth is simply to ask the question, what are we made of? Recently, I've been watching countless hours of famous clips and debates and speeches, whether it was James Baldwin's debate with William F. Buckley, or, for example, Marlon Brando calling for the film industry to give up 1% of their annual income to support Martin Luther King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and Marlon calling for one-to-one activities of change. I was incredibly moved. I'm shocked and realized, and I'm definitely concerned that we are stuck on stupid. And thus, maybe we just need a different approach. Many of you heard me say before that before every battle, during weddings, and even our saddest days, music accompanies the movement. Music in the music industry has a very outsized voice. Let's come together and use it. Let's use our voices and our songs and the human capital that I'm proud to be a part of. I'm committed to this marathon. It's necessary that we keep this drumbeat alive. We have to remind ourselves, keep ourselves accountable to this marathon, because we all know how thirsty this world is to get back to normal. Normal isn't good enough. In fact, I'm so sick and tired of normal. Just watching my brothers and sisters demeaned or even killed just because of the color of their skin. I promise you all that I'm working very hard at YouTube and Google to walk the walk and make that difference. We have a lot of work to do.
Thank you so much for that, Lior. What you said is so true and so important. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that we really do appreciate it. Hi, everybody. I'm Carlita Higginson, and I am the global head of music publishing here at YouTube. And I'm also one of the executive leaders within our diversity, equity, and inclusion group here at YouTube. I'm thrilled to be here today with such a highly qualified and thoughtful group of leaders within our music industry. And I'd like to start off today's discussion by acknowledging that the marathon for change that we are within right now can be exhausting. And because of that exhaustion, I think it's really important that we stop and celebrate our successes. That acknowledgement and that ability to celebrate our successes can really help motivate us to keep going during this marathon. So Chuck D, as somebody who has started your own movement in the past, I'd love to get your thoughts on what's one thing that's worth celebrating about today's global push for change.
We cannot not look any other way but forward in the energy of younger leadership. Notice I didn't say youth, because often we throw age into the middle of the mix. Therefore, you can always use the term youth as an excuse. And I always challenge younger adults and younger people, never use youth as an excuse. You are leaders right now. What we've seen is the frustration of younger adults and youth, 18 and under, if you want to call them that, saying, like, I'm fed up with the hypocrisy. I'm going to take it to what I see, meaning I'm going to march in my local area. I'm going to take down a statue I can't understand. I'm going to make sure that the police know that we're here and we're going to reform a discussion here.
Thank you so much for that, Chuck D. I completely agree with you. Watching the youth respond in the way that they have, I think is really inspiring. And frankly, I think it bodes really well for us and our future. Binta, I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
I would just say the fact that we're here, the fact that we're having this conversation, the fact that we're able to acknowledge that the movement didn't end in the 60s and the 70s or the early 80s, but that the movement actually continues, and that people are saying, oh, wait, you know, we might have thought that we had, you know, realized the dream, but we realized that what we did was in many respects superficial, and that there's further that we can go. So to see this past summer, and I have to be honest, it was scary at times. You know, I'm here in downtown Chicago, and there were moments where, you know, it was reminding me of some of the trauma from living in New York during 9/11 with the sirens and the helicopters and like the sound of mayhem. But in that sound, I also heard the sound of freedom and struggle and things opening up. And, you know, for young white kids and young Black kids and Hispanic kids and Asian kids and adults and all of these different people from all different walks of life, for it to not just be a Black struggle. For so much of the last 10 years in particular, it's felt like just a Black struggle. And sometimes when things feel like it's just a Black struggle, you feel unheard unless you're going home and you're speaking with your family, when you're speaking with your, you know, friends, people from your community, you feel unheard. You feel like what you're saying about your experience of race isn't valid. And so I would say the thing that gives me the most hope is the fact that we're here, the fact that Lior has convened this panel, that the show must be paused is being taken seriously as a new organization, you know, that the Black Music Action Coalition, which I'm part of, that we've been able to sit down with executives at every label, that we're actually having conversations and pausing and listening to one another. It gives me extraordinary hope.
Thank you so much for that, Binta, and I completely agree. I think it is incredible for these discussions to finally be at the forefront of conversations and to feel heard and validated as well. So with that, I'd like to move on to our second question. And this one really revolves around the fact that Black musicians are evolving the global soundtrack and dominating the charts. But we don't see that same representation in the Black leadership of our music business. So what can we do to ensure that there's equal representation of Black leadership in the business as there is in the charts?
It's all about opportunity. It's very interesting. I'll tell you a little story. Once I was doing an interview for Billboard, and someone asked me a question about diversity, and we were talking about it, and they said, "Yeah, but there's so many creative Black executives who've chosen to go the entrepreneurial route. Why do you think that is?" And my response was, "Why do you think that's a choice? Has anybody offered them positions?" It's about the opportunity. And so I think the way that really needs to be addressed is on many different levels. The first is creating ways that allow individuals to know these positions are available, and those hiring to actually know who these individuals are. And whether that is something akin to a Rooney Rule, whether that's some other policy that ensures that the funnel is wide and great, is really important. I mean, look, it's human nature. People hire people like themselves, and to break that cycle, you have to create an environment where people actually meet people who are not like themselves, and oftentimes find that those people have incredible value to offer to help change the discussion.
Thank you for that, Jeff. You are exactly right. I think people do hire people that look like themselves, and we need to figure out how do we break that mold. Binta, you've been in the corporate world for a really long time as well, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this.
Consolidation and a lack of competition, I think, squeeze out opportunities for Black people to leave on the executive side. And one of the things that I think that we do need to look at, and again, I'm not making this rocket science at all, but one of the things that we need to look at and to understand as we onboard and integrate more Black executives into the corporate leadership of our industry is understanding the extent to which consolidation in the music business has squeezed out opportunities and has squeezed out competition. I think that's really important. It's something that I was thinking about a lot this morning that hit me for the first time is that, you know, like when we go from 6 to 3, there are fewer opportunities for people to leave because the first thing you do is you start getting rid of redundancy or the appearance of redundancy. Well, then who are the people when you're starting to get rid of redundancy who leave the door first? And in a hyper-competitive environment, you know, like who are the people who are going to be able to survive in that hyper-competitive environment? And I'm not talking about it from the perspective of does this person or that person have the skills? I'm talking about it from the perspective of who's sponsoring whom, who's mentoring whom, who has access to what.
Thank you, Binta. It's so true. I really love the point that you were making about consolidation, squeezing out opportunities, as well as the point that you were making about the importance of both sponsorship and mentorship in support of those who've been squeezed out. So Lior, you've been an executive for a long time in this music industry, so I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well.
To me, it's about the funnel, okay? And making sure that we collectively hold one another responsible to making our companies better by having, by representing our consumers, but inside the building. And to me, I also struggle with the fact of, you know, that it's a click and drag. Let's have a Black executive oversee Black music. Certainly, I'm not Black, and I worked in Black music all my life. So I think that there is an opportunity for leadership to be held accountable about the funnel. Look, one of the hottest degrees that one could have is a music industry degree. So music industry degrees and excitement about working in the music industry is very high. And we just have to make sure that the funnel is right. And the funnel should not just be simply to drag and click to Black music. It should be throughout the organization. We should be hiring as many Black executives for Black music. We should be hiring data analytics people. It just will make the companies much better and much more dynamic. And it will be good for business. Ultimately, it's good for business.
Thank you so much for that, Lior. I think you make some great points, especially around us doing everything we can, not only to improve the funnel, but also to avoid the sort of drag and click where Black employees are just relegated to stereotypical departments within our industry. I'd now like to move on to our next question. And this one is about retention. So we've seen that the retention of Black employees is really low. And in particular, the retention of Black women is really low. So I'd like to ask, what can we do as an industry to not only increase that funnel, but also to improve retention? Jamila, I'd love to start with you on this.
Thank you so much. That's actually a topic I'm super passionate about. As a Black woman in a business, I will say something I've noticed is there at times can be a lack of communication and just professional development and coaching. And I think that it's important to, from the beginning, when you recruit these young executives into the business, whether they start out as interns into assistants and they move up the corporate ladder from there, that there's consistent feedback and there are goals that's set between the company and the employee. It's important that, you know, you provide a sort of plan for your team, I feel. And I know that the entertainment business can be very, we go with the flow, you figure it out, you're thrown in the fire. But it is super critical that we talk to one another about expectations in the role, how to grow, what are next steps, timeline to reach those steps, and how you can work together with your manager and the team to meet those goals in order to move up. I think we're seeing an issue with retention because, people are leaving these jobs after a 2 to 3 year run, whereas years ago, people worked at labels and these companies for 10 to 15 years. And I would love to see that type of retention come back, because longevity in the music business is one of the reasons why I got into it, because you picture yourself interning and one day being in the C-suite and running a company, and then you start these jobs and it doesn't feel as realistic as you thought anymore once you get inside. And I would love for there to be an encouraging environment, like Leora mentioned, just outside of Black music, whether it's tech, whether it is legal or production, or there's so many different jobs that we can work, and we just need to be educated on what's available to us. And then there needs to be opportunity for growth once we do get into these roles, because that will keep people in the building and not feeling like they've hit this imaginary glass ceiling that feels very real, because you don't see yourself moving. There's people staying in entry-level roles for 5 and 6 years. That is way too long.
That professional development, coaching, and sponsorship is so critical in terms of that growth and that creation of opportunities. I'd love to hear from Brianna on this as well.
Yes, thank you. So I think just to piggyback off of what Binta and Leora and Jamila was talking about, even I guess the thought process of it being a funnel, we should kind of reevaluate how we look at that, right? When you think about it, a funnel, you start off big and then you kind of weed out a lot of things, right? And you're kind of slowing that process and really limiting how many people can come in. But what we're looking at is what we want to see is in this industry, things change so often, right? So to the point of being able to provide mentorship and opportunities for growth, there should also be the creation of new positions that are going along with what is happening in the industry. There are new ways that people are consuming music every day. There are new genres of music that are becoming popular every single day. There are new things that we're able to do that maybe weren't as popular, that wasn't a talking point 5 years ago, but now they're a big thing in the music industry right now. So I think just being flexible and allowing that pipeline to come in and grow, but then also providing not only opportunities in the sense of positions, diverse positions within the company, but creating new positions that are now necessary given the environment that we're working in now. Just being able to really adjust with the industry and adjust with the changes that are happening in real time, or at least closer to real time than they seem to be happening now.
Thanks so much for that, Brianna. I totally agree. I think the industry is changing just constantly, and accounting for that change would not only help us to grow that funnel, but it will also help us improve retention. So it's a win-win. I want to transition now to the Black management of artists. We've seen just time and time again that a Black manager will contribute really heavily to the success of an artist and then be forced to relinquish the management of that artist once that artist gets too big. What can we do as an industry to prevent this? I'd like to start with you on this one, Chuck D.
Yeah, very clearly, I think that there's this overview of looking at this industry always from a top-heavy standpoint. Just to reiterate, just on the following question, segue into the current one, the talent pool in the music industry has always been lazy. Conveniently, major corporations in LA and New York, so when they look for talent, they kind of fielded it, whatever washed up upon its shores, and they dealt with it like that, just in talent. I think what we have with the industry, with gadgets and the phones, like Jeff was talking about earlier, when we look at these things as being tools as opposed to toys, then all of a sudden this has solidified the industry into being an industry instead of a hustle. A hustle is getting something to somebody when they want it, because they might not want it. An industry is supplying them when they need it. And right now these gadgets have kind of like made this a necessity. So if you look at the hierarchy and the structure of it becoming organization, I would say that, the real estate and development for anybody is always available. So if a manager feels that, okay, I manage this person up to a point, but I work inside an industry full of corporations. Where is the minor league pool? Where is the organization of the under pool that people can go to and know that they can always find not only that talent for the entertainment cultural side, but the lawyers, the business people? Where is that structure? This is why not only do people jump off to the different managers up the pecking order, but they go to other industries. The music industry has lost a lot of the mind trust to sports. And why has it lost it to sports? Because in high schools, you're bred on what the pecking order of sports is with the high school teams, and then on to NCAAs, and then everybody seems to say, hey, this is a business, and they form that structure around there. So I think what's starting to happen with the connectivity of these tools allowing a lot of people to be heard and seen no matter where they are and they're connected. It's saying, okay, if I'm a manager and I'm managing somebody for a 2 or 3 year period, I'm also part of a pool where it's endless, but I'm in the area of development, and you will grow with your scholarship. And let us make light of let's not make light of any scholarship and learning process. I think leadership has to be able to allow the learning process and the education of the thorough aspects of this business, so somebody can always be able to recognize the elevator, whether they want to go up or down and still make a living. So I don't buy that like, oh, somebody left me because I'm Black. It's like, yo, leadership better be able to say, there's a pool here that we got to respect right now. And that artist has a right to go to that pool, whether it's up and down, and look up that directory. That's what they do in sports. And and sports, they jump over, and they might be working at 3%. But they know one thing is that they got a underpool that's coming from middle school to the 40-year-olds in the professional level that's consistent, and everybody finds their working mode in that. Music industry, or I should say the record industry, is still breaking out of its embryonic stage. I would say, and Leor could attest, also agree, as well as Jeff, it was a hustle all the way up to 1999.
Well, 1999, Chuck and Jeff, was the year that I sold Def Jam to Universal. So
That's right.
it was actually the month that CDs started to go down. It was the first month ever that the CDs started to go down. And now in comes the digital revolution, the openness of our industry. And Chuck, I +1 you in everything that you said. And I can just say simply, in my opinion, that the leaderships of these companies it's got to be top down and bottom up all at the same time. They have to recognize that their company will be better, more interesting, more profitable by having a diversity lens that is real.
I completely agree with that. And I just want to add to that seeing Black representation in senior leadership positions, I think actually gives a lot of hope and inspiration to people in more junior positions. And it allows them to really see what's possible. So I think it's a great thing. Binta, as a former manager yourself, I'd love to hear from you on this as well.
I think that that's not only bad for the manager, I think it's really, really bad for the artist, because suddenly that artist doesn't have the person who's been with them, who understands them, who really gets their music. They're being forced to choose between somebody who's helped them to get to a certain point versus somebody else who might be saying to them, oh, well, maybe you should do this, that, and the other thing. Keep in mind that some artists are extremely impressionable, and so they're just trying to figure out how they can succeed themselves.
Thank you, Binta. That's a really interesting point that you're making, and I think you're totally right. It's not only detrimental to the business and to the manager when this happens, but it's also pretty detrimental to the artists themselves. So thank you for highlighting that. I'd like to now move on to our final question for today, which is, what is an upcoming racial justice project that you are currently working on that you're most excited about and that you really want to give some exposure to? Leor, why don't we start with you on this one?
keeping the drumbeat alive. That to me is the most important thing. That be clear that you're going to see me next month and the month after and the following year. That to me, that's the thing that I want to highlight the most, is that we have our running shoes on, our marathon shoes on, and we're not going to stop until we could all hold hands and say we've done a really beautiful job. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lior. Jeff?
I mentioned earlier co-chairing the task force for meaningful change at Universal with Ethiopia Habtemariam, who runs Motown. And it's hard to pick one initiative. We have several, but we're very excited about an internship program that we're finalizing. That's really designed to again focus on entry points for future Black executives. Very, very important. And another initiative that's got me very excited is finding ways to really globalize our affinity groups within our company, particularly Black employees, uniting them across geography, because some of the issues that we're facing in the music business in the United States are also being felt in countries like the UK and France, and certainly we've gotten a lot of in Canada, and we've gotten a lot of input from the leader of our African company. So that's been great.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for being here and sharing that with us, and for all that you're doing. Jamila?
Yes, I would say something that we're really excited about to be rolling out is the social responsibility committee within the Show Must Be Paused has jumped in headfirst into the voting conversation. And we're really driving all our efforts and our partners and the audience that we've built over time to focus on not just the presidential election, but educating them in the process for local elections so we can keep this movement going beyond November. I think right now the focus is all hands on deck, all boots on the ground, so we can come together and really show up at the polls in November. So that's something that we're really excited to be working on.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. So Binta, what's an upcoming project of yours that's related to racial justice that you want to give some more exposure to and that you're excited about?
Literally everything that we're doing. This conversation, everything that we're doing at the Black Music Action Coalition, whether it's, like the Show Must Be Paused, working on voting elections, getting out the vote, ensuring that people have a plan so that they can participate in the elections, so that we can help folks understand the link between protest and policy, that voting and using that form of expression is integral to translating the energy of the streets into policy that's going to protect Black life and advance Black life. But that's on the more global scale. But I'm also deeply excited about what we're doing within the music industry with the Black Music Matters campaign that we've established to direct funds, critically needed funds, to Black creatives, whether they're more experienced Black creatives or emerging Black creatives. COVID emergency relief, all of this stuff to me is important for leveling the playing ground. And then finally, there's the larger conversation that we're having, looking at the business itself, figuring out where the opportunities are to do a better job of not just increasing diversity. You won't hear me ever advocate purely for inclusion or the increase of diversity. I'm really interested in, and what we're really interested in, is deep integration. Like people really working together side by side. At the outset of this conversation, Lior referred to his brothers and sisters who are being killed in the streets. That is integration. That's what I'm talking about. Not, this idea of, like have a couple of Black folks here and a couple of Black folks there. Diversity. So I'm excited for us to continue with this process of, understanding discovery, really looking to understand how we got to this point, where racism is, asking the hard questions, and continuing this movement forward so that we can have a deep change in heart that enables us to keep working together, building together, and bringing more people to the pie. Because when we do that, we grow this pie and everybody benefits. And when the music industry itself, as a culture industry, can eradicate the racism that is within it, when we can reduce racism and the effect of racism on our business, we're not just solving a problem for our business and for our industry, we're also solving a problem for society. So what I'm excited about is all of the work that we're continuing to do, that we've started doing, and that we will keep doing for however long we have to do it until we see justice and equality throughout our society and business.
Thank you, Binta. You are working on so much, and I just applaud all of your efforts, and I thank you for that. And I thank you that you've taken time out with all that's on your plate, to be here and to share that with us. Brianna.
So just to echo Jamila's point as well, all of the voter initiative things that we're doing with the Show Must Be Paused. And I think in general, I'm really, really proud of the community that we've built with the Show Must Be Paused. Jamila and I are often the ones speaking about it publicly, but behind us, we have 1 million people, right? Not literally 1 million, but we have a great amount of people that support us, that we talk to multiple times a week, that are with us in the trenches when we're working, and, just coming up with initiatives, working together to execute, really just everyone kind of, playing their part. And, part of what we wanted to do with the Show Must Be Paused was hold the industry accountable, but that also includes us, right? So I also love that we were able to not only hold the industry at large accountable, but hold ourselves accountable in our community to be the change that we actually want to see in the industry, and what can we do on our own to increase the pipeline of young Black people coming into the industry, to help with mentorship, to help with things that affect us as a community outside of the building, whether it's voter initiatives or, various things like that. Mm-hmm. So just everything that we're working on with the Show Must Be Paused as a whole, I'm just really, really proud of it. And, we're looking forward to definitely continuing the message and the movement, and working alongside everyone on this chat as well, just to continue to move the message forward and continue to fight for justice and integration and equality and diversity.
Thank you so much, Brianna, for what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to continuing to collaborate together. But it's very exciting to see everything that you've done in terms of really kicking off, this part of the movement. We really appreciate it. And then Chuck D, for you, you've been a pioneer. You've been in this for a minute, and so what is something that you are excited about from a racial justice perspective in terms of things that you're working on?
So I'm excited about my involvement with the 100 organizations that look and move forward. You make powerful organizations accountable. You make grassroots organizations responsible. You ask the question, at what point do we become mature? I encourage youth leadership and younger energy leadership, but you always got to be that OG with that counsel, advice, and be that consigliere by the side to direct and guide, and sometimes sit down if you see it going in that positive direction. I'm also concerned about building and management from the bottom up and not having it be so top heavy. So what I do at Rap Station, we serve as a minor league operation of situations to curate the music and diversify the music's meaning all around the world. And Spit Slam record label, we're diverse. And as an artist, to reconnect with Jeff Harleston over at Def Jam, and also Lior knows that to put some importance into the logo and into the label as a visit. And coming out with a release this Friday is just using the art as a platform to ask a very pertinent question, not to lead in artistry, but to show a path in artistry, saying that you can be a Lamborghini out there, but if the road is a swamp and the road is muddy, you ain't going nowhere. So structuring that and putting it together and doing the road work, and Lior could attest, that's always what I've been about. How do we build a path? And letting people know that bigger is not always better. and at the same time asking the question, and this was a revisitation to Jeff Halston and Def Jam, you know, in rap music and hip hop, which has always been looked down upon as a bastardized music or whatever, or the gutter music, you know, at what point do we consider important as good, if not better, than popularity? Corporations, if they want to detach ourselves because they don't consider us family, then they will weigh us by the numbers. But we're more than just numbers. And our numbers and our ideas, they conflict sometimes, but our numbers are vast when it comes to the diaspora and ideas around the world. And that leads to the pull to make us better, if not always bigger. And I do believe that I'm excited about the future of this decade because all the work that women, and most importantly, Black women, have put into this industry. I believe that the numbers have to come up with what Black women are looked upon as their importance and how they benefit out of what they put in.
Thank you so much for that, Chuck. I appreciate your comments, and thank you so much for your contribution to the culture. I just want to thank you all of the panelists, for being here today and really being part of what I found was an amazing discussion. So thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to us continuing to collaborate together and work together to move the industry forward. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Y'all were incredible. Thank you.